Welcome to Spider-Verse Minute, the tri-weekly podcast where we watch Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 1 minute at a time. I'm Sean Slater.
And I'm his sister Caroline.
And today we're watching minute 65, which begins with Peter hyping up Miles and ending a minute later with Aunt May asking for some help.
I have titled this minute, Can't Do It on Command.
Yeah, that was one of my working titles for the episode minute, but I decided to go with the one that I'm using now.
Which we know what that is.
Yes,
Totally.
Obviously, it's the one, if you look at the podcast feed, that it says.
Clearly what it is.
I like how, good job on Peter for hyping up Miles, but he does kind of blow it and being
Just a bit, yeah.
He can show off his powers. He's like, can't show off my powers.
He can do so many other things. Like what else? Just those two things. Just those two things.
Yeah, he is very positive the whole time he's doing it, though, which is very good.
Although I love how you can kind of tell he kind of thought, like, I didn't think this through well enough.
Yeah.
Just a quick small detail I noticed that I don't think I noticed before is that Miles is still wearing the Spider-Man merch.
Yeah.
But I noticed in this minute that he has the pants rolled up.
Oh yeah, pulled them up a little
I
bit.
never noticed it in the previous minutes, so I don't know if it's like he's always had them up or I'm just noticing it now.
I know they've always been kind of short on him.
Yeah, but no, these are like distinctly rolled up.
Was he wearing the... Yeah, no, I think it's just when he's wearing, like, street clothing, he has them rolled up. And
that makes sense.
When he was just in his, like, Miles, like, just in the spider costume, he had them pulled down a little bit further.
I think he did, yeah.
But yeah, I do love, like, he just keeps this costume on the whole time.
It is funny. But yeah, going back to the support stuff, I also love Peter trying to hype up Miles, not thinking it through, clearly. But then I love Gwen's little sweet moment of just like, hey, look, I've seen him and he's got potential.
Yeah.
Like, she's more realistic about it. But it's also just still a little sweet, like, hey guys, like, let's give him a shot.
Yeah, I do have, like, a bit of complaint with her. At least with the portrayal of her, is like, I love the, like, yeah, he's got potential, and then it immediately seems like she turns on him and just gets very, like, at least the way it's played off, it comes off very aggressive and, like, anti-Miles, but then like after that, like, she kind of flips back and says it, like, is it, I think when they go into the group and she's trying to, like, support them, like, and she says to Peter, you know, hey, we might have to, like, consider the option if he's not able to do this. And, like, there she says it in a sweet way again, but when she's, like, hitting Miles, like, when they all attack Miles and she, like, goes after him, she says it in a very aggressive way, and it seems a little, like, out of character, or it feels out of character that they didn't switch it enough from when she was sweet to not sweet back to sweet. It felt very just like, oh, you know, flipped, like, you know, flip of the coin, and then she wasn't sweet again, and then flipped it again and she was, and it wasn't this, like, progression that could have been built up.
I can see where you're seeing that. I think I always just took it more as a bit more of, like, a tough love situation, like, this is being her a little more idealistic, where when fighting him, she's being a little harsher, a little more like, hey, this is reality.
Yeah, and, like, I think it just didn't feel like it came off that way. Like, the lines didn't feel like they were said that way.
I get what you mean. And, like, honestly, like, that sort of deviation is so fine that it can be very hard to tell sometimes. Like, some people are like, well, no, you're being mean. It's like, no, I'm being, like, sensed in reality here.
And I think it might just be her line of, can you swing and flip with the grace of a trained dancer? Like, she kind of knows you can't. She already saw that. Like, if she would have asked maybe something else, because then later on, once they get into into it, and she says, "Can you be strong?" Like, that feels more in line with what she is like. Can you be strong? But then when it gets in the next minute with her next line and the next line of inquiry that they all do, feels a bit more in character with her.
Yeah, I think I almost gave her the dancer line just because everyone else was kind of asking more character-specific questions.
Yeah.
Like, things that, like, what they deal with. And so it was sort of to kind of follow that motif. Which I understand, but it does... No, I totally get what you mean. Like, it does feel off for her.
Yeah.
It's almost like they wrote that before they realized she would be seeing him swinging.
Yeah.
In a way.
And before they had everything settled down as to, like, how they interact with each other and what their relationship is and whatnot. Yeah, it definitely feels like that.
And then maybe they just kind of either forgot to cut it out or just didn't really want to change it because it still fit with, like, the other lines. They're like, it still works.
Yeah.
Like, so, no, I get... Yeah, I totally see where you're coming from with that one. Speaking of the character-specific lines, I want to talk about Spider Noirs really quick.
Yeah.
So, first off, his lines are hilarious. Where, like, some of, like, the dialogue he has of, like, biscuit boxers.
Yeah.
I looked it up. Apparently, Nicolas Cage improvised that line. Or a lot of those lines. And I'm like, wait, what? And there was, like, some controversy around it because people were thinking it was something that it wasn't. I don't remember what all of the articles said, but I'm like, wait, what's happening? Oh, I think what it was is that so he improvised a lot of those lines because they allowed them to improvise the lines. Like I remember John Mulaney talked about that, and it was very funny because he did a lot of swearing in his outtakes.
Yeah.
And at one point, he finally asked, like, "What's this movie rated?" It's like PG, but don't worry, like we'll cut all this out. Just keep going. Like it was just to kind of help create an environment. But he improvised quite a few of these lines, and some of them got very sexual. With Nicolas Cage, and I'm like, what? This was not one of those lines. But that kind of makes me laugh. Like, a lot when I think about that. Of just Nicolas Cage using all of this, like, 1920s made-up slang. But, like, with, like, a very sexual context. And I'm like, this is just the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life right now.
Yeah.
The biscuit boxers particularly is one that just made me chuckle a lot. And the way he kept saying surprise attack.
Yeah.
Surprise attack!
It's not a surprise attack if you announce your attack.
Surprise attack! I mean, clearly it worked.
That's true. Yeah, I also like his next line of, can you close off your feelings?
That's a heavy line.
Yeah.
When you really think of it, but it's so funny in the moment.
It is funny because it is something that, like, you know, everybody, it's something that's never brought up, but is obvious that, like, everybody I shouldn't say never brought up, but very rarely is it brought up in a, like, kind of meaningful
direct way.
Yeah, in the story, and, but it's obvious something that has to, like, you know, be contended with, and, like, a lot of people are outside of comics are just like, wait, like, these guys are criminals, right? And, like, some people, like, sometimes it's this sort of, like, you know, gray area of what they're doing, and some of them, you know, get some sort of legal status with it, and sometimes they don't, and it's always interesting.
I always like bringing up Batman as, like, the perfect example, because he is a vigilante and he is breaking the law, but he's also fighting very dangerous criminals. Yeah. Although he himself is technically a criminal. Yeah. And in many versions is, like, wanted by cops. So it's like it's something that gets brought up, maybe not directly among heroes, but in like it is something that they deal with. So that line is very funny because it is very true, and it is also very heavy at the same time. Yeah.
And then Aunt May's like, can you help her create an online dating profile? It's like,
she can get out of the house once in a while.
I do just love the idea of Miles, like, it's not even his aunt, and he's just stopping over and, like, helping her out, you know, with stuff like that.
You know what? I need that in the sequel. Like, even if it's just, like, an after-credits thing, or, like, they just bring it up once.
Or
that, like, how he's been helping, like, coming over and helping her with it. Like, I love this idea.
Yeah, like, they're doing, like, a little study group where he's, like, over there doing some of his homework, and she keeps asking him some questions, and he's like, oh, click on this and this, and then he goes back to doing his math. And he might be doing, like, history homework, and he keeps asking her about stuff.
Aunt May, and Miles' roommate, whose name I'm blanking on.
Genki.
Genki, thank you. I wanted to say Kenji for some reason, but it's not that.
But yeah, like, he's doing some history homework. He's like, hey, what was, like, you know, the I Have a Dream speech like? And she's like, oh yeah, I was there.
Did your parents ever talk about this?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I wasn't there with my grandmother. And it's like, I think the thing that makes that line even funnier is that she delivers it so calmly compared to everyone else.
Yeah. Like, she's just like, Peter never helped me with this, can you?
It's like, please. I've asked him many times and he just never would.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else for this minute?
The last thing I just wanted to touch on was how well this scene sets up the conflict in the third act. Like, it's a very, just like, okay, this is what the third act's gonna be about. Like, this is what we're doing. Is getting Miles, you know, this one, and then the beginning of the next one.
Yeah.
And all of next minute is just like, okay, Miles needs to get good enough to be able to push the button. And that's what the third act is all about, is getting him to that point.
It is a great setup, and it's also great comedy too. Like, their timing with it is fantastic.
Yeah. It also is like a nice, like, a lot of times it's always tricky, like, you know, when does the third act happen? Or you know, where is, you know, the different, where are the act breaks? And sometimes it's very hard to, like, oh, you could pick this one for this movie, or oh, maybe, you know, you go a bit later and this is actually when the act break is. But this is a very distinct, like, okay, this is where the act ends.
Yeah,
the end of this
it very much blends to, like, it doesn't blend together like some do. Like, this one is very clear
cut.
Yeah,
but that was the last thing I had to bring up.
All right. Thank you all so much for listening. Catch us again on Friday with the next minute 66. Until next time, thanks for listening.
Bye.